And they say that CRTs wouldn't be viable today. And to that I say, what if it's my choice to watch everything I want to watch with Vaseline smeared on my screen? Now, ladies and gentlemen, I wanted to do a little quickie, a little one-off video to reveal a little bit about myself and my little nook that I got going on right here. My little TV desk with all my things. You see my record player, my Nintendo Switch, my PlayStation 5 in the background, and this giant black block that you are seeing currently. And you're probably thinking to yourself, well, what is that? Well, my friend, that is a cathode-ray tube television, otherwise known as a CRT. You probably remember me showing a little bit of this in the last review video when I did my review for Powerpuff Girls Chemical Extraction. And if you saw the Powerpuff Girls animation on the AVP channel, you will also remember that at the end I showed one of the frames of the animation on this TV, this very same TV. So I just wanted to show you guys a little more about it and just how I got my hands on it. It's a pretty good TV, things considering, and I'm really glad that I was able to get it for the price that I got. Its model is a Sanyo DS19390, and it's about 19 inches in width. I want to say it was manufactured in the early 2000s, but like there's not really much of a record for when this exact model came out and when it started to be sold commercially. It's not necessarily too old like older CRT models, so I want to say somewhere between like 2001 to 2004. Between like that, like I'd say in the post Y2K era of CRTs, that's when they started to become more slick. They start to master the production for how these things are supposed to look like, just enough to hold the chassis and the electron gun. You can tell that in older CRT models they used to be much bulkier. They used to look more like just big blocks, whereas this model right here, you can just see the shell is warped around the gun and the screen right here. It's just very straightforward. It's a very straightforward design, holding the electron gun and showing the screen. And for how I acquired this TV, I can tell you the exact day how I got it. It's actually a little funny when you think about it. So how I got it from my neighbors across the street, and I remember the exact morning too. It was me, my mom, and my grandparents. We were about to head over to St. Louis for a modeling thing, and my grandma was coming to pick us up, and she saw that they were having like a garage sale over there. So my grandma told me that they were selling stuff that I might possibly be interested in, cause like they were selling like clothes and books, CDs, you know, old gadgets that nobody's even thinking about anymore. And she just saw that they had this TV that they were selling. They just had it sitting in the parking lot. So I said that I wanted to just check it out to see what was going on before we left. So before we went over to St. Louis, we just went over to the block real quick just to check out what was going on, and sure enough, it was there. And it was pretty good, things considering. It was just a little dusty, but it was not beat down. It didn't have like any scuff marks or scratches, which is a big problem when it comes to these type of things with CRT televisions and older tech in general. Is that the older that they get, there's a higher chance that they'll accumulate damage over the years, and that's just a natural thing that happens whenever you're dealing with technology that's been around for years. You start to see these irreparable damages to the outer casing, and sometimes unfortunately it can affect the internal compartments as well. But this TV, he plugged it in for us real quick to see, and yeah, it was still working in top condition. So yeah, we went over to their house, we just saw, and yeah, he was interested in selling it to me. He was selling it for me. We came to a deal. He would sell it to me for $5, and he would hold on to it. And their garage sale was gonna be like going on between like 8 in the morning to 1, and by then we were gonna be back. So I shook on it. I said that sounds like a good deal. So when we got back from St. Louis, we went over back to his house, and they pretty much had packed everything up. So we just went up to the door and said that we're here to get it. So he went in and got that for us, and we took it back home. And Yeah, getting this TV right here, for the quality that it is and the model. To get this TV, this very same TV that I looked up on eBay that's being sold between like $100 and $150, to say that I got for $5, yeah, safe to say that I lucked out on I lucked out on that day, huh? And it only costed me $5 and nearly breaking my back in the process. So when I got it home, I took it into my room, and then it was just, like I said, it was just a little dusty. There were a few smudges on the screen, but it wasn't like anything that I couldn't get off. So I just took a rag and I took some all-purpose cleaner spray, and I just sprayed the rag, sprayed a little bit around the frame and the screen, and just wiped it down, and sure enough, it was looking good as new. In retrospect, I probably shouldn't have used all cleaner spray. I mean, given that you don't want to get like any sprays that can cause anti-glare. That can be a problem. Usually you just want to use a regular glass cleaner to wipe down TV CRT screens, but given that this was just a commercial TV, it was probably fine. It wasn't gonna hurt it. So yeah, just a little point for reference to anyone who's trying to get into TVs, older TVs. Just be careful with the chemicals that you use on the shell and on the glass. It can happen. It doesn't happen all the time, but it can happen. So that brings me to the second thing I wanted to talk about. So you probably noticed this little white box on the side of the TV. I haven't said anything about it yet, but what that is an HDMI to RF modulator that I attached to it. And it comes with its own power supply. Basically what this thing does is that it plugs directly into the coaxial signal at the back of the TV. You know, the coaxial signal, that's where you would attach a cord. You would attach that cord and you would plug into the wall, which would connect to the satellite dish, and then that's how you would get all your channels displayed to your TV. It basically does that, and it connects to that box right there, and it will convert that signal to an HDMI output signal, which then from there you can connect pretty much any modern HDMI input device into it, and it will display in here. But you probably are a little confused because for most CRT TVs they had RCA on the back of the TV. So you're probably just thinking, why didn't I just get HDMI to RCA so that way it would have been easier? Well, it's because my TV, it doesn't have it. It just has the coaxial jack, which makes it a little more confusing. Why? I'm trying to figure out what the release year that this TV came out, because it looks like it could have came out in the 2000s, but it doesn't have composite. It doesn't have a composite signal, which most TVs did back then. So it's a little odd that this model right here doesn't have that. Could just be a variation of this one specific TV model, where another model of this TV possibly could have had RCA, and this one just doesn't have that. So I just had to work with what I had available to me. It just has the coaxial jack, so yeah, that explains why I had to get the modulator. And it even comes with its own remote. How the remote works, it pretty much allows you control over the box. It allows you to tweak the picture settings, gives you this control. I really like that you can do all these things. You can tweak the width and the height of the picture. You can change the contrast and the saturation, the brightness, the sharpness, and you can also change the refresh rate. So if you live in Europe, if you live overseas, if you know correctly, the refresh rates for American TVs in North America and in Europe, there was the NTSC, which was here in America, in the States, and PAL in Europe, which was 50 hertz. So anything that would be, if I'm remembering this correctly, anything that would be displayed here in 60 hertz here in America on a European TV, it'll come off slightly faster. That's because European TVs were slightly slower because of the refresh rate. How it works is that the European version, it would be the game developers, they will have to make the game slightly faster. They will have to manually change the speed of the game to be faster, so that way that the European version was the exact same speed as the American version. So that's why whenever you try to play European versions of games at a refresh rate of 60 hertz on like an emulator, it's gonna be, the music will be like slightly faster and higher pitched, and the physics will run faster. So that explains that difference right there. and this went on for, I want to say, like in the late 90s. That's when it started becoming more uniform. Games, like, they still had to differentiate the regions, and they still do it to this day for American, European, and Japanese releases of games, but that problem doesn't exist anymore, since now most TVs today just have the exact same refresh rate. So yeah, it's just a little novel piece of history right there. So that's why that they had to make 2 separate versions for a video game. Like, if you know, one notable piece is that Mario Brothers, for the arcade home port for the Nintendo Entertainment System, a lot of video game enthusiasts, they'll prefer the PAL version specifically for this reason, because that version for Mario Bros, it's more close to the original arcade port than the American version. Because like Mario and Luigi's physics, they're more akin to the arcade version, and the graphics look more like the arcade, which is why I don't think Nintendo has put that version out on their systems yet. It's just the American, I think it's just the NTSC versions that they put out, and they haven't re-released the PAL version of Mario Bros. So that's why a lot of those guys, they'll prefer that version over the American version for that difference right there. And back to the box. I actually got this box for pretty cheap too. I think I don't remember where I got it. I think I got it on like Amazon or eBay or something like that. And I got it for like $14. And the first month I got it, it broke. And then I was able to send it back, and they were able to get me a new one. They were able to ship me a new one. And since then, that's the one that I got, and it hasn't broken. So it's pretty good things considering. And it's how I've been able to show you all these things on the TV, from the Fire Stick and my consoles and YouTube and the like. So it's very nifty. It allows you to modernize the TV so you can use it for today. And as for the TV itself, the picture is quite good, things considering. The lines are sharp, the colors are bright, and they pop off the screen, and there's next to no lag at all. Of course, you wouldn't be able to see that because I'm recording this on a phone, and I don't have the right equipment to properly capture it, so it really doesn't do the TV justice, but I promise you, it looks way better in person. And you know what really stands out is just how a lot of modern things still look amazing on CRTs. Like, it's honestly amazing how the technology for those televisions still hold up for today. And how a console released in this decade still looks great to look at on older technology such as this. To an extent, I would prefer it. Like, I've played a few games on PS5 and the Nintendo Switch on here, and honestly, I think they look amazing. I mean, yeah, I know they're not going to look nearly as good as being displayed on like a 4K TV or OLED monitor, but there's just something about seeing these modern graphics today that could almost pass off as real life being displayed on primitive technology like this that makes it strangely endearing. Because for the time, this is what people thought the future was going to look like. This is how they thought technology was going to be. Which, I mean, they're not wrong, technically, but to see that concept right here, like, seeing how they thought the future was going to be like, it's like, I don't know, it's something you can't really explain until you experience it yourself in person. I know you're probably thinking, oh, well, Ani, aren't you a little young to be reminiscing about this? You weren't even born in the 80s or 90s, so what do you know about the culture back then and what people thought? And to that, I say, yeah, I know where you're coming from. It is a little odd hearing someone born in the mid-2000s talk about this like they've actually been there to experience it, when most of my other peers and kids today, they couldn't even tell you what an electron gun is. So, like, it's kind of jarring to hear the juxtaposition, but for me, it's a little different. When I was a kid myself, when I was living in my older home with my mom, my older sister, and my younger brother, I actually did have a CRT of my own in my room, and it was how I experienced TV for the first time myself. The model for that was a Magnavox. It was a Magnavox 20 MT1331, and that came in a gray. That was a gray CRT, and it had I think it had 2 sizes. One was like 20 inch and one was like 13 inch. And mine was the 20 inch, if I'm not mistaken. And that was how I experienced TV the first time. I think I had it. I want to say I had it for like 5 to 6 years, and that was like a very very long time ago. I was like 6 to 8 years old, but that's how I remember playing the Nintendo Wii on there and how I watch cartoons. And I remember something too. I think it was at my cousin's house. My older cousin, they had this big TV down in their den, and we used to have sleepovers. And I remember we used to go down there, and we used to stock up on snacks and blankets, and we would just head down there, and we would pop in a movie, and we would just watch. It would be nighttime. We would just all be snuggled up in the blanket watching the movies, and I'm getting all nostalgic thinking about it already. Yeah, and we also used to play his Wii games down there, and it was just a whole lot of fun. I remember one of my earliest memories. We used to play SpongeBob's Boating Dash on his TV down there, and we played Michael Jackson The Experience on there. He was really fun. I have a lot of memories for that. So I do have a genuine, authentic, nostalgic lens to look back on these TVs on, and just seeing how these have come to have an impression on me. And as I got older, and I started to research more about things that had interest to me, I started to watch videos about CRTs and their history and how they were manufactured and the technology surrounding it. For a small while, it became like MacGuffin trying to scout one of these out, when really it was just as easy as just walking down to the street to your neighbors and seeing that they still had their old TV box from 1997. So, it just kind of goes to show that these things are not always as they're chalked up to be, but it's the memory that makes them so special. It's honestly great to relive all this older media today with modern sensibilities. Since I got a Fire Stick attached to it, I can just grab the remote and go onto any one of the TV channels and stream pretty much anything I want. PS5 can read movie discs, so that means I can watch any of my favorite movies, and I don't need to worry about any visual artifacts and letterboxing because the pictures displayed in the correct aspect ratio. How would I describe it? It's like having a little time capsule in the palm of your hand, and able to watch anything from the past in the most ideal way possible. And yes, I know I've been beating around the bush, so I just gotta say it. You are contractually obligated, socially contractually obligated to say it when talking about CRT televisions. Yes, the games look amazing. For a while, I didn't fully understand why so many retro game enthusiasts stuck to their guns about CRTs being the most ideal way to experience past video games. And I mean, on one hand, I got it. Like, they grew up with that. They knew how they were supposed to look like. But at the other hand, we have things today, like we have emulators and mods that can make these games look so much better than what they used to look like before, with all these visual enhancements and shaders and what have you. But since I've gotten this TV and played the games themselves in the way that they were meant to be shown in the proper aspect ratio and display, I now swear by CRTs as the only way to go when it comes to playing retro games. It just looks so much better, and it's so much more responsive too. Modern screens, yes. Modern screens, they have their place today, but to get that true retro experience, I'm sorry, but it's CRT all the way. And there's also the other thing too. Since a lot of emulators, they have support for mods and texture mods that can enhance the game's visuals. I've played games like I've installed a couple of texture packs for a few GameCube games, like for Smash Bros. Melee and Super Mario Sunshine and Luigi's Mansion, and yeah, oh my gosh, it just looks so good. These textures are in 4K. They're upscaled, and they're high resolution textures, and to see them displayed on this oh my gosh, you really have to be there to experience it. It just looks so much better to look at. So I guess that's all I wanted to say today. This went on way longer than I wanted it to be. There's just a lot to say about this, and there's just a lot to say about CRTs and what they mean now. It's quite nice to see that there is a niche for them, and just seeing other pastiches, other old technology from decades before just making a resurgence today. it's quite interesting to see how we look back on things that were once seen as cutting edge and high tech now through the lens of current understandings and our current culture today with the technology we have available now. Just seeing how we used to think this was going to be like the next big thing when it was like the most simple thing imaginable. But just looking back on these simple pieces of tech, it just goes to show how far we come along. Like, it just shows you how much we've advanced as a civilization and how much better our technology has gotten. But at the same time, it also puts into perspective how these things have had a lasting effect on our lives too. And now that we're older, we are actively seeking these things out in order to relive them, because we have so much better things now, but yet we are actively choosing to go back to objectively worse technology because we can't separate the memory attached to them. It's very interesting that I wanted to say. It just goes to show how time can be a circle, and what's seen as old becomes new again. How even the younger generations today, they want to get involved in this nostalgic trend of chasing the past to relive things that were once in vogue. And I just think it's an interesting cycle. It's interesting to see what lengths people will go to in order to relive something they thought was better, a better point in history. Though, I will say this, I don't think we'll be seeing any CRT monitors in esports tournaments anytime soon.